My sister stole my best friend and turned everyone against me at dinner. She said, "No one ever liked you anyway." Then my friend whispered, "You should know what she told me about you." I'm 38, single, and live alone in Asheville, North Carolina. I've worked in interior design for most of my adult life and run a small consulting business that's just stable enough to pay the mortgage. I used to have a pretty normal, if not picture-perfect, family. My parents, Claudine and Thomas, are your typical Southern couple, my mom obsessed with appearances and my dad more concerned with his garden than any family drama. And then there's my sister, Mallory. She's 3 years younger than me but has always acted like she was older, wiser, and the main character of every room. She's one of those women who never seems to sweat, who always knows exactly what to say to charm the pants off anyone. People fall over themselves to get on her good side, until they realize she doesn't really have one. Not unless it benefits her. Growing up, I was the quieter one. I liked art, books, and designing dream houses with sketch pads. Mallory was the social butterfly, the dancer, the girl everyone wanted to date in high school. I didn't mind it. Not at first. We were different, and I was okay being different. Until I started noticing that she wasn't okay with it. Over the years, she slowly but persistently chipped away at the things that brought me joy. Teachers who praised me? She'd charm them into thinking she was the real talent. Friends I was close to? She'd swoop in, build a bond, and then slowly edge me out of it. Boyfriends? Well, she flirted with more than one of them. My parents would just shake their heads and say, "She doesn't mean anything by it, Ava." But this story isn't about high school or boyfriends. It's about my best friend. The only person I ever thought truly knew me. Celine and I met in college. We clicked right away, not because we had everything in common, but because she saw me. Not the quiet older sister, not the backup singer to Mallory's solo, but me. We talked every day for years, supported each other through heartbreaks and health scares and job losses. She came to my design showcases, I helped her move 3 times and once drove 4 hours to be with her when her grandmother passed away. She was more than a best friend. She was family. Or so I thought. About a year ago, I invited her to a 4th of July barbecue at my parents' place in Biltmore Forest. I always hated these events, but Celine made them bearable. That day, she met Mallory for the first time in years. They'd crossed paths briefly back in college, but nothing ever came of it. I didn't think twice about introducing them. In hindsight, I wish I hadn't. That day, I watched Mallory turn on the charm, the same laugh, the same flattery, the same little touches on the arm and shoulder she always used to pull people in. Celine laughed a little too hard at Mallory's jokes. I brushed it off. I told myself, she's just being polite. It's one afternoon. But things shifted after that. Subtly, at first. Celine started canceling our brunch plans. When I asked if she wanted to go hiking on the Blue Ridge Parkway, a thing we'd done together for years, she said she had plans. I only found out she'd gone to a wine tasting with Mallory because someone tagged her in a photo. When I brought it up gently, she said, "Oh, we just ran into each other." She invited me along. That might have been true the first time. But then it kept happening. Girls' weekends. Dinner parties. Spa days. All without me. The tipping point was my birthday. Celine and I had this tradition, we'd take the day off work and spend it doing whatever the birthday girl wanted. This time, she canceled at the last minute, saying her cousin had a medical emergency in Charleston. I believed her, of course I did. She's my best friend. 2 days later, I saw her tagged in a photo on Mallory's Instagram. They were at a rooftop bar in Charlotte with some of Mallory's old friends. No cousin in sight. I didn't say anything. Not then. I didn't know how to say "you're hurting me" without sounding like a jealous child. Instead, I let the anger build. Quietly. Bitterly. Thanksgiving came around. My parents decided to host a big dinner, as they always do. Extended family. Fancy place settings. My job was to bring dessert. When I walked in, Celine, was already there, sitting next to Mallory at the long dining room table like she'd always belonged. They were whispering. Laughing. Sharing inside jokes I didn't recognize. The moment I walked in, the room felt colder. Like I'd interrupted something. Mallory barely acknowledged me. Celine smiled and said, "Hey," but it felt like she was talking to a coworker she didn't particularly like. Throughout dinner, every time I tried to share a story or a memory, someone cut me off. Mallory, especially. She dominated the conversation with her usual flair, dropping subtle digs at me like breadcrumbs. Remember when Ava tried to cook Thanksgiving dinner that one year? The fire alarm wouldn't stop going off. Everyone laughed. I laughed, too, but it felt hollow. After dinner, as we were helping clear the table, I pulled Celine aside. I tried to keep my voice steady. Did I do something to upset you? I asked. She looked surprised. No. Why? You've been distant. And I see you with Mallory all the time now. She paused. I guess we've gotten close. She's not who I thought she was. She's actually pretty cool. That hurt more than I want to admit. Mallory wasn't just someone I didn't trust. She was someone who had actively tried to hurt me, more than once. I thought Celine knew that. The final straw came months later, at a family dinner my parents hosted for their 40th anniversary. Everyone was there. I considered not going, but my mother called twice and said, "Just be there, Ava." It's one evening. I wore a navy dress I'd bought months ago for a conference and had never gotten to wear. I arrived early to help set up. But the moment Mallory and Celine walked in together, dressed like they were on their way to a magazine shoot, I knew I shouldn't have come. The dinner was long. Loud. I tried to smile through it, but I felt like a ghost at my own family's table. No one really looked at me. And then Mallory, mid-toast, turned to me and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "No one ever really liked you, you know. They just felt sorry for you." There was a pause. A collective silence that filled every crack in the room. My cousin choked on her wine. My uncle looked away. My father blinked, confused. My mother cleared her throat and said, "Mallory, that's not," but she didn't finish. She didn't defend me. My hands were shaking. I opened my mouth to say something, I don't know what, a denial, a scream, anything, but then Celine leaned in, her voice low and soft. "You should know what she told me about you," she said. I blinked. "What?" She said, "You made up that assault story in college. For attention." My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. That story, what happened to me my sophomore year, was the most painful, vulnerable thing I had ever shared with anyone. Celine was one of the few people I trusted enough to tell. I hadn't even told my parents. And Mallory had twisted it into gossip. A punchline. "She told me you crave drama," Celine whispered, still too low for anyone else to hear. "That you manipulate people to get sympathy." I believed her. I stared at her. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not in a loud, dramatic way. Quietly. Asserting. Like cutting a string that had been holding me together since childhood. And that's where I'll pause for now. Because there's more, so much more. What happened after? What Celine did. What I learned. How I confronted my family. And what I did to finally get my life back. But right now, I need to stop typing and breathe. So I left. I stood up, barely conscious of my legs moving, of my purse on my arm, or of the 20 pairs of eyes on me. I didn't say anything. I didn't scream or throw my wine in anyone's face, which, truth be told, part of me still regrets. I just walked out of that restaurant and let the heavy wooden door close behind me like a final period on a sentence I hadn't wanted to write. The cool Asheville air hit me like a slap. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, clutching the strap of my bag and trying to stop the shaking. My phone buzzed, texts from my mom, from my cousin, asking where I went, if I was okay. I didn't answer. I couldn't. When I got back to my apartment, I turned off my phone. Then I sat in the dark living room and stared at the wall until the sky turned gray in the morning. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the realization that I had been orbiting people who never truly saw me. Not the version of me that mattered. That week, I took time off work. I didn't explain it to anyone. I just told my clients I had a personal emergency and turned off every social media app. It wasn't a conscious plan, it was survival. I didn't want to see more photos of Celine and Mallory drinking at the Grove Park Inn or smiling at some downtown pop-up. I didn't want to pretend to be okay. The first real confrontation came 4 days later. Celine showed up at my door unannounced. I saw her through the peephole, standing with a brown paper bag from our favorite bakery and a look on her face that I couldn't read, something between guilt and exhaustion. I didn't want to open the door. But I did. I owe you more than an apology, she said. But I brought muffins. I didn't say anything. I let her come in, let her sit on the couch, and I sat across from her with my arms crossed and my jaw clenched so tight it hurt. She started talking. She told me how it started, how Mallory had accidentally run into her at a fundraiser and invited her out for drinks. How it was fun at first. How Mallory always seemed to know exactly what to say to make people feel chosen, important. Celine said she got caught up in it. She told me things about you, she said, and I believed her. I didn't say anything. She said you were always the jealous one. That you played the victim. That you twisted things to get sympathy. She looked down at her lap. And I believed her because she was so confident about it. She told stories that seemed real. I should have asked you. I should have trusted my gut. Still, I said nothing. Celine pulled something out of her purse. A printed email. It was from Mallory, forwarded to another friend, someone I didn't know. Attached to it was a very old email I'd sent Mallory years ago, something personal, raw, about a breakup I was going through at the time. At the bottom, Mallory had typed, "God, she's so dramatic. I don't know how anyone puts up with her. I swear she thinks pain makes her interesting." I stared at the paper for a long time. She sent this to someone? I finally said. Celine nodded. I only found it because she left her laptop open while we were working on an event at her place. I shouldn't have read it. But I did. And it got worse. I went through our old messages, things she said about you, about your work, your friends. She made fun of you behind your back. Constantly. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and asked, "How long has she been like this?" I laughed. I didn't mean to. But the sound escaped before I could stop it. "Since we were kids," I said. "You just didn't notice until it happened to you." We sat in silence after that. I didn't forgive her. I didn't tell her it was okay. But I listened. That was as much as I could give in that moment. The next confrontation was with my parents. My mother, predictably, tried to smooth things over. "Oh, Ava, you know your sister has a sharp tongue, but she doesn't mean anything by it. She told people I made up my sexual assault," I said. "Do you really think that's just a sharp tongue?" My father looked stunned. "She said that?" "She told Celine. And apparently others. I don't even know how many people have heard her version of me. But I'm done pretending it's just teasing or jealousy. It's cruel. And if you defend it, then you're part of it." My mom tried to cry. I think she thought it would make me comfort her. But I didn't. "You always made excuses for her," I said. "Every time she lied. Every time she hurt me. You let it go. And now it's gotten this far." "I didn't know," my dad said, quietly. "You didn't want to know," I replied. After that, I went low contact. Not officially, not with some dramatic declaration. I just stopped picking up every call. I stopped attending family dinners. I started building a life that didn't include Mallory. Or my parents, most of the time. I spent more time at the local library, joined a book club that met once a week at a brewery in West Asheville. I volunteered at a youth design mentorship program. I started to feel, slowly, painfully, like myself again. A version of myself that hadn't existed in years. As for Celine, we talked. Not often at first. I told her I needed time, and she respected that. But she showed up. Not with grand gestures, but with presence. A message checking in. A book she thought I'd like. She even showed up to one of my small gallery showings and sat quietly in the back, not asking to be acknowledged. Just there. I don't know if we'll ever be best friends again. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust her the way I once did. But I appreciate that she came back. That she owned her part. That she didn't try to rewrite the story. Mallory, on the other hand, doubled down. I heard through my family that she's been telling people I'm unstable. That I turned on everyone and cut people out of my life because I couldn't handle criticism. Criticism. Apparently, character assassination counts as constructive feedback in her world. But the truth is, I stopped caring about what she says. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because I finally realized she thrives on reaction. On being the sun around which everyone else revolves. I stepped out of orbit. And she hates that more than anything. There's still more to this story. What happened when I finally confronted her directly? How I found out just how far she went to destroy my relationships. And what I did to stop it. But I need to pause here. Because this isn't over. It took me a while to gather the courage to face Mallory again, truly face her. After years of letting her dance around consequences, I wanted this final confrontation to be different. Not loud, not emotional, but deliberate. Precise. She still lived in Asheville, in a high-end condo downtown paid mostly through her husband's business and a handful of influencer deals she picked up through local connections. She was what you'd expect, all glass wine glasses and filtered smiles and just enough faux activism to appear evolved. So when I invited her to coffee, she accepted immediately. She thought she had won. Why wouldn't she? I had disappeared from family events. Celine and I hadn't been seen together in public in months. My mother had been wringing her hands to every cousin and neighbor about poor Ava, still struggling with bitterness. Mallory met me at a sleek cafe in the River Arts District. She wore a pale yellow dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her sunglasses stayed perched on top of her head, not because she needed them indoors but because they were part of the look. She sat down across from me, smiling like a cat. I wasn't expecting to hear from you, she said, as if this were a reconciliation. I know, I said. I kept my voice even. But I wanted to clear the air. She leaned in, intrigued. She always loved an audience, even if it was just me. I'm glad. It's been too long, hasn't it? Things got messy. I nodded. They did. And I think I finally understand why. Oh? You've spent your entire life trying to erase me, I said. You can't stand the idea of me being seen. Being liked. Being happy. Her smile faltered. Just a flicker, but I saw it. I'm not here to argue, I continued. I'm here to give you a choice. You can keep going. Keep spreading lies about me. Keep turning people against me. Or you can stop now, and I'll walk away, and we'll never speak again. She tilted her head. That sounds a lot like a threat. No, I said, calmly. A threat would be telling you that I've gathered every email, every screenshot, every message you've sent about me over the last 3 years. That Celine gave them to me. That I've already sent a curated file to everyone in our extended family. Every cousin. Every aunt. Even the family friends who still think you're just misunderstood. Her face changed. Not dramatically, Mallory was too good for that, but the twitch of her eye, the clench of her jaw. I had her attention. And if you ever say one more word about me to anyone, I said, I'll go public. She scoffed. Public? What are you going to do? Post it on Facebook? No, I said. I'll send it to your sponsors. To the companies that pay you to be an example of a well-adjusted lifestyle brand ambassador. To the local magazine that just featured you as a woman of influence. They don't like liars, Mallory. They don't like abusers. Now she was rattled. You think anyone will believe you, she said, though there was less conviction in her voice now. They already do, I replied. You're not as subtle as you think. And Celine's not the only person you've manipulated who wants to talk. I stood up then. Left a $5 bill for my coffee and turned to walk away. Wait, she called after me, voice suddenly small. I paused but didn't turn. What do you want from me? She asked. Nothing, I said. That's the point. And I meant it. That was 2 months ago. Since then, Mallory's been remarkably quiet. No more texts to our cousins. No more snide digs through mutual friends. Her social media presence took a hit after I posted a vague but honest account of my experience with a family member who used my trauma for their own gain. I didn't name her. I didn't need to. The people who mattered connected the dots. Celine and I are in a better place. We're not who we were, and maybe we never will be. But there's a new honesty between us that didn't exist before. She joined my book club and we've started collaborating on a community workshop. She handles the emotional wellness part, I designed the creative space. It's been healing. For both of us. My parents, well, that's more complicated. They've started to come around, slowly, awkwardly. My dad showed up at one of my shows last month. Didn't say much, but he stayed the whole time. My mom hasn't apologized, but she's been less quick to defend Mallory lately. I don't expect miracles. But I'm not chasing their approval anymore. As for me, I'm living differently now. More selectively. I no longer give pieces of myself to people who only want to tear them apart. I still live in Asheville, still run my design consultancy, but now I spend weekends hiking, volunteering, or just sitting in quiet joy with people who make me feel safe. Mallory still exists in the world, probably still telling stories that cast her as the misunderstood genius. But I'm no longer in her story. She doesn't get to write mine anymore. And that, in the end, is the most satisfying revenge of all. Living. Thriving. And finally being free.